Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Cancer Coach Talks. I'm your host, Leslie Nance, and tonight we're going to be talking about something very important, and that is the habit of being a cancer boss. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me live here this evening on Facebook via StreamYard. I appreciate you guys so much joining us. Thank you for all the shares. Holy cow. You guys shared the share out prior to this broadcast. I really appreciate all that hard work that you guys did doing that. I come here on Tuesday nights and talk about mindset aspects of dealing with cancer. I am a 7-year cancer survivor myself. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, a certified holistic cancer coach. And I am always really excited to be here with you guys. I do owe you a bit of an apology, and thank you for being patient with me over the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, I had a client that needed my attention, and so I had to cancel last minute. Excuse me, our time together. I'll explain the cough in just a minute. And then I was traveling the week after that. And then the week after that, I had the flu, and ain't nobody wanted to see me on that day. Trust me. So I am recovered from the flu, but I do have this little lingering cough, and it gets worse as I talk throughout the day. So please forgive me this evening if that pops up into our broadcast. So hi, Gail. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So I also want to invite you personally, if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I'm going to be teaching a real in-person live cooking class, like a for real deal cooking class at the Natural Grocers at 759 Grapevine Highway in Hurst. 759 Grapevine Highway. That's going to be on February 29th at noon Central Time. So if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I would love to meet you. Please come on by. The class is completely free. You don't need to pre-register. You just need to know that seats do in these class rooms at Natural Grocers, that the seats do fill up quickly. So you want to make sure that you get there a little bit early to grab a seat. And I don't know if it will fill up or not. I think there's like 40 seats available. But if you're in the area, I would love to meet you, and I love to have you in that class. So, and if you've never been to one of my cooking classes before, well, you just don't know what you're missing. So just wanted to make sure that I did that shout out, and shout out to Natural Grocers for hosting me on that day. We're actually going to start a series. It's going to be called Cancer Cooking School, and I will be teaching live. A lot of you have asked me about, sorry, I have something like over this eye over here. So a lot of you have been, there it is again. Hold on. I have to totally get it, or it's going to drive me crazy the entire broadcast. Did I get it? I don't know if I got it. Anyway, a lot of you have been asking me if I'm going to live stream that event or record it. I will not be. It is for local event purposes only. So you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to record it or to live stream it. And so I'm not going to be doing that. Oh, I got it. Done. Got it. Okay, sorry, there was like a little hair bugged me. So tonight, let's jump right into the topic. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm super excited to share this topic with you, something I've been wanting to share with you for like 3 weeks now. And so really excited to be here to do that. So I want to talk about the habit of being a cancer boss. And where this came from is I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about what's the one distinction that you see in every client, especially the clients that heal their body? What's the thing that they are doing that really gives them, it's like consistent across, that community of people? And I have to tell you, I did come up with one thing, and it has to do with habits. And so I really want to discuss, and by the way, if you haven't, I don't know that you're here. I know that there's like 10 or 15 of you here right now, but if you could type in a comment, that way I know who is here, and I'll say hi and all that kind of fun stuff. So anyway, that would be great if you did that. Let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be awesome as well. So I think that it's important to talk a little bit about a habit. And I mean, we all know, like, or at least we think we know what the definition of a habit is. So it's not really, hi, Jill, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. It's not really about just a habit or discussing what a habit is. It's about recognizing, hi, Trish, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. But it's about discussing what kind of habits that we have in our life. And so a habit in a literal sense can be described as a good thing or a bad thing, right? We have good habits and we have bad habits. The example of a good habit may be that you are exercising. The example of a bad habit may be that you are a smoker. Right? So that would be an example of a good habit and a bad habit in one's life. One that contributes to the value of your life and one that takes away from the value of your life. But we have we have physical habits, brushing your teeth, eating breakfast, or calling your mom, if you have that luxury to be able to do that. We develop these habits and these systems in our lives that are repetitious, that we complete over and over and over again, and they become a habit. And sometimes it's surrounded by a time of day, sometimes it's surrounded by a situation. It just depends, but we all have these learned acts that we have developed in our lives. But the one thing that I think that we ignore in this scenario is we tend to think that all habits are physical, right? They deal with a physical quality in our lives. Like me, I have a habit of talking with my hands. Jazz hands. Okay, so I have a habit of being silly. But we think about our habits as a physical aspect of our lives. And what we tend to ignore are our emotional habits. Dun, dun, dun. And the hammer fell and the room went silent. Our emotional habits, which contribute to our physical health and our physical well-being and our emotional well-being as much or more than our physical habits do. And so we have emotional habits about how we react to stress, about how we perceive danger in our life, our level of paranoia, how we allow ourselves to love other people, what kind of people we allow in our lives, what kind of people we disallow in our lives, how we react to certain scenarios. How often do we fly off the handle? These are emotional habits. How do we react when we hear bad news? What happens when we're scared? Are you predictable? Do you have the same habits? Do you repeat that same pattern over and over again? And some of us have bad emotional habits and some of us have good emotional habits. And they're the same as our physical habits, right? Thank you, Jill, for being here. I'm so glad that you're here to grab onto a little bit of goodness tonight. Hi, Jane. It's good to see you. Hi, Marie. Totally fine that you're late. No demerits or anything for being late. So when we were diagnosed with cancer, and I'm a 7-year survivor, so I can say we, because I have been diagnosed with cancer in my lifetime as well. But when we were diagnosed with cancer, we tend to look at our habits to give us the paper trail about maybe why we got cancer in the first place. And so this causes a chain reaction of physical response. We begin to think, maybe it was something that I ate, right? We begin to think maybe it's my diet that needs improvement. So we make a change. We change our habit. We think maybe I ate too much red meat. So we change our habit. Maybe I ate too much sugar. I probably ate too much sugar. And so we change our habit, right? And this is the physical manifestation. Maybe you think, oh, I smoke. I need to stop smoking. That's what caused my cancer. And so we have this physical reaction. We have this response to wanting to change things physically in our lives to correct the problem that we might have created. But there's something very important that we ignore. And that is our mental and emotional habits that we have. I'm mad. I'm lonely. I'm sad. I'm jealous. I'm bitter. I'm scared. These are all emotional habits that we have. And not only is it the thought process that we have when we perceive something is threatening our lives or is trying to take our lives or is making a massive change in our lives, but we have these reactions, and we tend to react the same way we would when we have perceived threat in our past as well. Because we are programmed with these habits, with these ideas. And so if I could share one secret with you guys tonight of those clients that I have who are beating cancer or have beat cancer, it would be breaking the habit of that negative thought process in your life and in your thinking. Now, I have a friend that calls it stinking thinking, which I just think is hilarious. I'm sure she's not the first one to say it, but I think it's funny when she says it anyway. She's this real deep Southern accent, and she calls it stinking thinking. You know, when you get in there and you got that stinking thinking, that's what she says. Just every time she says it, it cracks me up. So, and I'm from the South, I'm from Texas, but I don't say it like she does. But it's that stinking thinking. Because my mentor, Dr. Susan Silberstein, will say, maybe it's not what you're eating, or maybe it's what's eating you that is the key that unlocks the door to finding out why your body produced cancer. Uh-oh. Don't step on my toes tonight, Leslie. Don't make me have to think about this, lady. Right? So for me, this habit that I had, this stinking thinking, right, that I had to do with something that was so crazy for me to think about now, but it was so real in my life when it was happening. Hi, Rosette, it's good to see you. It was so real when it was happening in my life. But I was an intense conspiracy theory person. And I'm not talking about governmental conspiracy theory. I'm talking about conspiracy in the way that everybody is out to screw me. I don't mean in a good way. Everybody is trying to get something from me. Everybody wants something from me. Everybody has an agenda, and I am going to be the fall guy. This is how I thought. I really felt like that all the decks were stacked against me. That all the decks, I'm glad you thought that was funny, Jill, that all the decks were stacked against me at all times. And that it was my job to bust down the walls and find my own way. And I will tell you that this negative emotion, this negative habit that I had created something very devilish inside of me. And the reason that I know that it's true, and some of you, if you've been listening to me for a while, you've heard me tell this story before, but I have an amazing relationship with my husband. We have been together for 20 years, and I just don't even know how to explain how much intense love and joy and happiness that this man brings to my life. And we do not fight. In 20 years, I can count on 3 fingers, 3 fingers, how many times that we've had an explosive argument and actually fought. 3 times in 20 years. No kidding. And so we are very, very connected. And so I want to say that because when I'm about to tell you, you may get a little ticked off at him, especially if you know me now and you're like, but I love you. You could never be that way. How could you possibly ever be that way? Right? And you didn't know me then. It makes way less sense now than it did then. But prior to my cancer diagnosis, we were out with friends. And apparently I went off on a tangent. I had I went off on this whole like conspiracy, people out to get me, trying to screw me, trying to take advantage of me, blah, 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 this big like thing. I don't even remember what the subject was. I don't even remember what the conversation was about. But apparently I spent a lot of time ranting about this particular thing. And we get in the car that night and my husband is very quiet, which if you know him is not like him at all. He's always very vocal and very opinionated. If you've ever listened to our radio show, you know that we used to have a radio show called Fork It Over Radio, which we did together. And we're looking for another station for it right now. But anyway, since we moved to Texas from Colorado, we don't have it anymore. But anyway, so he was very quiet and I was like, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong tonight? I mean, I feel like you're upset with me. And he's like, I don't know how to say this to you, but the way you acted tonight was incredibly unattractive. What? I was pissed. I was so mad. And I went off on him. This is like one of the three. I went off on him. I was like, how could you, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was just saying, I was just being smart and conversational and he was like, I don't care what you want to call it. I was embarrassed by you tonight. I was ticked off, mad as a hornet. This went on for a couple of days. I was so mad. I could not get beyond it. And then I realized that he was right. And that how I had behaved was not very attractive. And I replayed the conversations over and over and over again. And at that point in my life, I started making a shift. Now, this was very close to my cancer diagnosis, but I started making a shift. But I didn't make the full shift until cancer came into my life. And I began to value and understand the value of my life. And I wanted to break that habit. And again, if you've watched me long enough, I describe my personality as cynical Barbie, who truly cared about everything that was going on in her life and her hair and her nails and her makeup and her clothes and her car and her house, and everything had to be perfect. And if somebody else's life was a mess, then I had plenty of criticism for that person. Not their face, not that kind of criticism behind their back. I was that girl. And I mean, my best friend and I had a saying, if you don't have something nice to say, come sit by us. We want to hear it, And I despise that woman now that I was. She taught me a lot of lessons, but I was in the habit of behaving badly that way. I was in the emotional spiral of behaving badly. So I will talk about a client now and how this affected her and her habits. Her habit was distrust, and particularly when it came to her doctors. She had listened to so much stuff from all these sources about how doctors are screwing people over and how your doctor is going to, kill you, and how your doctor this and how your doctor that. She had no trust in her doctors, yet she was following all of their instructions. So you can imagine the havoc that this was that this was causing in her life. You can imagine how every time they made a suggestion and she did it, the negativity that she was brewing inside. She was literally brewing. It was like this big bubbly cauldron of ickiness. She had a habit that she had formed, that she had created of distrust, and it was killing her. And the day that she and I were working together and we discovered this habit and we uncovered what was going on and we began to fix it, 180. 180 in her health. Amazing to watch her heal her life. Because what she found out was that distrust was not just with her doctors. It was just about anybody that had any authority. She didn't trust them. And when we begin to correct that and begin to work through that, her health began to turn around. And we begin to see chronic illness disappear. We begin to watch as her cancer they could not get to shrink at all, started shrinking. It was amazing. And when she did the work to critically change that habit and form a new habit in its place, she began to see healing in her life. And same thing for me. When I got rid of the old habit and I replaced it with a habit that was benefiting me instead of harming me, and my mindset, this has nothing to do with the way that I ate. This has nothing to do with the way that I take care of my body. Same thing with my client. Nothing to do with any of that. Only to do with those shifts in perspectives, those breaking the bad habits, those bad emotional habits, and focusing on making those switches to promote healing in our lives. So how do you do this, Leslie? How do you align this? How do you figure out what bad habit, emotional habit you're harboring? I guarantee you, when I say that, every single one of you have something that clicks off in your mind. Dang. Forgiveness, anger, disappointment, sadness, fear, conspiracy, selfishness, distrust. Every single one of us can think of a bad emotional habit, a pattern that we get ourselves into. So how do we fix it? The best way to fix these types of problems is to slow your mind down. There are so many of you that are trying to crystal ball your life. And what I mean by that is that you are acting like you've got a crystal ball and you're staring in it. You're staring in it, trying to figure out what happens next. And no time in your life have you ever done this before. You might have fantasized what your life looks like after you get married, or after you get your dream job, or after your kids are born. But you don't try to predict what's going to happen. But cancer gives us this feeling that we want to try to predict what's going to happen next. And it's not effective, and it's not contributing to your healing. And so slowing your mind down. There are different techniques to do this. You can think about mantras or repetition work, right? The other thing that we use is visualization, meditation, yoga, energy work, prayer. slowing your mind down. Now, if you are one of my clients, you have a very useful tool called a cancer declaration. That's one tool that you have. You also have, most of you, maybe you're not to that phase yet, but a lot of you that are here, you have a meditation as well that you follow along with that is personalized to you and to your needs. You have a visualization that helps you through your processes. You have many tools. Now, I don't want to discount that food is important, because food is very important. I wouldn't have spent all my time getting an education to become a nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist, if it weren't important. Food is important, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. Sometimes it's not what you're eating, but what's eating you. And if you are in the habit of letting cancer boss you around, are living in fear or distrust or anger or frustration or overwhelm, then your cancer is bossing you around and you have some habits that need to be corrected. Sometimes they're longer than that. My bad habit, my bad emotional habit, which I had several, I only mentioned one tonight. It was a lifetime. Since my adulthood did I have that. Another one that I struggle with is flying off the handle, being an emotional wreck. The way that I respond to fear is a bad habit. I get flustered very, very easily. And I have been working on that for a long time, my emotional response, and it's getting better. It's getting better. My husband is the type of person that if you have an emergency, he's like the person you want there. Like, he is so good in emergencies. And I'm like, we have an emergency. We have a problem. I'm that person. So that is a habit that I have, that I've been working on, controlling that, because that kind of panic does not add to healing. Trust me. Right. And I know a lot of you that I work with are going, really? Because I've come to you with some pretty big stuff and you just are so calm. But that's because I've learned to be calm. That's because I've trained myself. I've changed my habit of being calm in those situations. You can eat the cleanest diet known to man, but if you are always pissed off at somebody in your house because they're leaving dirty dishes around, or they won't pick up their socks, or they're, whatever their habits are, and you're just constantly mad at them, you are blocking your healing pathways. That habit is not helping you. Your emotions and your thoughts cannot, listen to me, your emotions and your thoughts cannot contradict all the positive things that you're doing physically in your life to heal. They cannot be in conflict. You cannot be a basket case and eat a perfect diet and expect to heal. You cannot be a stress cadet and eat the perfect diet and get the right amount of exercise and expect to heal. It's an impossibility. You will always struggle until you align those habits and change them for better habits. I'm going to read this off of my piece of paper because I think it's that important. What you are feeding your mind and your emotions are all part of what you're feeding your cancer, are feeding your healing. Let me say that again. What you are feeding your mind and your emotions are all part of what you're feeding your cancer, or you're feeding your healing. And we tend to focus on just the physical aspect, what we're eating, making sure what we're putting into our body physically is healthy, changing our whole environment, making things less toxic in our house. But if you're not doing that same work up here, you're not going to heal. You want to know how my top clients that heal their bodies completely, 100%ly, how they do it? This is a huge part of that equation. What you put in is important. What you put out, what you speak out is just as important. What you're putting in up here is just as important. What comes out of here is just as important. Those things have to be in balance. You have to align those things. That is how you heal. You can spend all day, every day researching every diet on the planet and be following the best of the best anti-cancer diet, and you're still a wackadoo. You're not going to heal. But if instead you follow that righteous diet and you align your physical body and you align your spiritual body and you align your emotional body, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're talking about what it takes to never have cancer again. People ask me all the time, how'd you get 7 years? How did you get so far? How come you look better now than you did in your 30s? I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 in August. Because of this work, because the alignment that I have done in my life, because of the switches, because of the manifestations that I called into existence. That's how. So the one habit is slow your mind daily, align it towards your desires. Be committed to breaking the bad emotional habits in your life. All right, you guys, that is all I have for you tonight. I'll take a few minutes to answer a couple of your questions. If you want to type those in now, I just want to remind you that on February 29th, I will be teaching a live class in Dallas-Fort Worth area, 759 Grapevine Highway in Hurst, Texas at noon. I almost said noon Mountain Time because that used to be my old cooking show. That's so funny. Noon Central Time. And I will be there teaching at a Natural Grocers. And I would love, love, love if you're in the area that you stop by. It would be great to meet you and to give you a big fat hug. I always tell people, stop on by for a hug. That's really what I want you to do. So yes, I'm just going to wait a few more minutes here. If this resonated with you this evening and you're thinking, how do I get more of that? How do I do this work? Where do I sign up for that? I'm going to just drop a link here for you to book a call with me. The calls are absolutely 100% free. The call is designed. Hi, it's good to see you guys. The call is designed to help you figure out what it is that you want to work on. And if I'm the right person to help you in that direction, I will tell you and tell you how I work with people. If I'm not, I will point you in a direction where you can get some more help. So there's some of you here this evening. There is some of you this evening that I've actually spoke to before, and I was not the right person to help you. And I passed you on to turned you on to some other method, and you found the help that you were looking for. So we're not always a perfect fit. But if I can help you, I am 100% aligned to do that. And so that is what that call is designed for. So I'm going to drop a link here. Again, it is completely free to sign up for that call. Hold on just a second. There we go. So you guys can use that link to do that. Rosette is saying, please remind me to stay away from the internet, which gives me so much fear. That you actually bring up, I'm going to put that up on the screen. you actually bring up a really great point. Because here's what happens. We get afraid. And so we go looking for a story or an antidote or something that will help reduce that fear, because we're not equipped. We haven't equipped ourselves to deal with the fear. And so what we do is we hop on the internet to see if we can find a success story. And then what happens is that the internet isn't poised for that. It's poised for bad news. It's the media. And so it's poised for bad news and not good news. And so we go on and we start looking on Dr. Google. And before we know it, you've got, cancer of the whatever, because it fits into the symptom of something else. And so, there's that big funny meme that's, you go on Dr. Google when you've got a headache and you come out and you're, and you have Ebola. so, staying off Dr. Google, I think, is a good sound advice for everyone and everything. Although I know some of you have found me that way here. So it's kind of like, but be careful who you're getting advice from. Be careful who you're leaning into their wisdom. And you have to ask yourself, does their purpose, does their authority align with me? Is it what I believe to be true for my own life? Because even if you're looking at, you might look at like MD Anderson or the whatever, Sloan Kettering or whatever, and we give these names, these big names, all this power, but they're just human beings trying to find their way, just like we are. And so they just happen to have more research and more statistics than we do personally. But you have to learn to lean into your intuition. And when we talk about having a spiritual experience, I'm not necessarily talking about religion when I'm saying that. I'm talking about leaning into your intuition, that sixth sense that you have about what is right for you, and using that as a weapon as opposed to something that keeps you confused, but learning how important that it is in your life. So yes, sound advice for everybody. Stay away from Dr. Google, right? Yeah. Oh, thank you. I love you too. Mwah! I know you didn't say I love you, but I feel blessed to know you too. Sweetness, gorgeous, right? Anne-Marie is saying, yes, Rosette, I did that in the beginning and it wasn't good. That's right. You have to negate the temptation to do that for sure. So yeah, that's when you need to dig into your mindset work. Need help with fear of cancer coming back. Good info. Hi, it's good to see you, Ellie. Thank you so much for being here. I hope I said your name right. Thank you so much. Yes, it is important when we are, I struggled with the fear of cancer returning because I had such a high reoccurrence rate. I struggled with the idea of cancer returning for a long time before I learned to master the art of putting that behind me. It's really great to have you here. Thank you for being here. Yes, right. That's right. Don't let it take over, right? Exactly. Don't allow others to Dr. Google for you either. It's funny because a lot of times people attach their fear of cancer onto our journeys. And so therefore they think that they're helping in that idea, but a lot of times it's not. So you have to be careful where you gather your information from, and be very, because you can find a Google page or you can find information about just about any subject on the planet, and whatever mood you are in when you read it, is how you will absorb it. So if you are in a fearful mood, you will absorb it as bad news and something you should be afraid of. And I will tell you, we should talk about chronic stress at some point and what that does in one's life and how detrimental it is in our daily life. And you're putting yourself in an emergency mode that is not necessary, and you're certainly not helping your cancer journey. You're hindering your healing process when you're leaning away from the wisdom that your body is telling you to partake of and leaning into someone else's journey or story and picking up their fear from their personal experience. It is not helpful for anyone at any time. So, yeah. All right, guys, love you bunches. I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you for joining me here this evening. Again, my name is Leslie Nance. I dropped a link there. If you guys are interested in booking an appointment, you can also reach out in private messages as well. Always available to have that conversation there. Please make sure you're following the page, Any Stage Cancer Protocol, right where we're broadcasting from. Give us a like, give us a review. If you have time to leave us a review, there is a place to do that. There's a star system there. And the more of you that leave us those good reviews, the higher that Facebook ranks our page and the more people that we're able to help. So thank you in advance for doing that. Thank you for being here tonight. It's good to be back with you guys. I do not have any travel and I certainly don't plan on being sick. So hopefully I will see you several Tuesdays in a row coming up. So thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. Love you bunches, and I will see you next week. Bye.